Hello, my name is Neda Salam, and today I'm going to be talking about discourse communities. First of all, I'd just like to define a discourse community. This is a community of people that share the same values, the same beliefs, and usually the same traditions and or practices. The discourse community that I would like to talk about today is Model United Nations. Model United Nations is a high school and college program where you can basically reenact the process of the UN or the United Nations panels and conferences. So basically what we do is we're assigned a country and we are assigned a topic. And we're supposed to write a position paper on that topic explaining what our position is on it, what we think about it, and how we think we can resolve that issue from our country's perspective. So we can be respectful of the countries and make sure that we're not impeding on the sovereignty of those countries while we're writing. They have to match up with the country's beliefs as well. So after we do that position paper, we all meet in this conference of about 20 to 30 people, and we're all a different country. So we don't share our position papers, but this is just the first example of how we use writing in this discourse community, because we write pretty long position papers just to kind of break into the conference and show the other countries what our stance is on that topic. Next, what we like to do is have moderated caucuses, which is basically when a country comes up to the panel and states his or her position on the topic, what we should do to resolve that topic, and basically trying to get people to join their group to get the best resolution paper and ultimately win prizes at the MUN conference. So basically we have this. These are moderated caucuses. That's when we talk freely and openly together and write questions down to ask the countries that are speaking at that moment. And then we have unmoderated caucuses, which basically consist of meeting time for about 5, 10, 15 minutes. Students will propose the amount of time that they want on the caucus. For example, they'll say, I motion for an unmoderated 15-minute unmoderated caucus. Basically, we can speak about our ideas for 15 minutes. That way we can speak freely and we don't have to be quiet and listen to just one other perspective. We can all share our collaborative perspectives. So basically we get together in the unmods and we start to work on our resolutions. This is the second example of how we use writing in MUN and in this discourse community is we write out another paper, which is a long paper that is full of clauses and subclauses, as well as a broad thesis statement at the beginning of the paper. So basically we write these papers, they're resolution papers, so we have to have about 20 to 30 clauses of what we're going to do in order to implement change on this topic, whatever it may be. Let's just say that the topic is clean water. So we come up with about 20 to 30 clauses that have to do with clean water. So basically, we'll say something that will help implement a change to help bring clean water to those communities that we are dealing with. So it's a pretty straightforward idea, but it's a really good example of a discourse community because it's a very simple idea. You write these resolutions, you write these position papers, and then you finally get graded on your writing by either the judges or the other countries that you're working with. And when you're collaborating with these ideas, it's much, much more helpful than working on your own because they can all write a little bit and then you come up with this great cohesive paper. So after we write those resolution papers from our resolution groups, there's about 5, 6 resolution groups in a conference, and about 5 or 6 people go up to the panel and they answer questions after they read their resolution paper out loud to the conference. So the conference members that aren't on the panel will write questions down, they'll think about what the people are saying, and then just write rebuttal questions. Just a bunch of rebuttal questions, and usually the panel will take questions for about 10 to 15 minutes, and then they'll sit down and the next group will go up and then they do the same thing. So this is another example of how writing is used in this discourse community. It's basically all writing and speaking. So you just have to be very quick and you have to be very educated on what type of writing you're going to be using because it's a very professional setting, and a lot of things can be taken off of your record because of the way that you write or the way that you speak in the conference. So it's very important to know the difference and know what writing to use as well as when you're in these types of conferences. About a few examples of position papers as well as resolution papers. The first one I have, this is a resolution or a position paper that I wrote in sophomore year. This is, we had to write two. So this one was about water sanitation, and then this one was about HIV and AIDS. So basically, I was Japan during this position paper, and you're required to write at least 3 paragraphs. The first paragraph is supposed to be describing the issue. The second paragraph is telling how the issue has affected your country. In my case, this country is Japan, so how water sanitation and HIV has affected Japan. And then the third paragraph is usually how you plan to resolve the issue, what resolutions you want to bring to the table in the conference, and etc. So this is a sample resolution paper. It's kind of small, but I printed it out just so you can see what it looks like. It looks like this, and it's usually spaced out, so it's spaced by clauses and not by paragraphs. So with each clause, you have to bold the first few words of the clause so you can recognize that it is a new clause. And each subclause and clause means a different thing. So you have different resolutions within this resolution. You have, about 20 different ideas within one resolution, and that's why people like to vote on them, and that's what we usually do at the end of conferences is we vote on them, because whatever the best resolution is, that's the one that wins. So this is just an example of what we do, and this is an example of how writing is important in MUN and how it's pretty much, the backbone of any MUN conference, as well as listening and speaking. So in conclusion, my discourse community, MUN, it really was a great way for me to improve my writing and speaking skills, and it definitely was a good way for me to find people that have the same interests as me and have the same goals, I guess, as I do when it comes to Model United Nations. So that was my discourse community video, and I hope you enjoyed it. I loved my discourse community. I loved MUN while I was in it, and I wish I could do it here in college as well.